The global fintech as a service market is expected to grow to over 1.1 trillion US dollars by 2030. And now telcos have a real shot at repurposing their OSS and BSS to become banking as a service providers. Could they even function as a central bank for the people in a new era of connected finance? Let's leave it to the experts to discuss. On stage will be Johannes Hummer, CEO, Freedom Telecom International, Edgar Tak, CEO and co-founder Eurisko, Eamon Tian, VP Digital Operation Transformation Domain, MENCA Region, Huawei, Sadat Kesik, Acting General Manager, Do Pay, and our moderator will be Dr. Ammar Hamadian, Head of Strategic Partnerships, Salience Consulting. Let's give them a round of applause, please.
Good evening, and as the MC said, we're in the final countdown for the day and for excellent 2-day summit. My name is Ammar Hamadian, and today we're going to talk about FinTech, the new pillar for telcos. Honestly, I'm not sure if it's a new pillar for telcos, maybe a delayed pillar for telcos, but we'll find out. We know that traditional telcos have been, the source of a foundational source for data, SMS, and voice services for the longest time. But now I think there is a big opportunity for them to tap into a new segment of financial services with all the sub-streams of fintech, whether it's insurance, health tech, and because fintech is a wide array of services, right? So in the next 40 minutes or so, we will gather insights from our experts from Freedom Telecom, Mr. Johannes Hummer, Mr. Eamon Tian from Huawei, Mr. Edgar from Eurisko, and of course from Do, we have Sadat to tell us about what Do Pay is doing in the markets as we've been discussing. So let's start with Mr. Hummer here, the CEO of Freedom Telecom. If you can start with an introduction of yourself and Freedom International, please, and then we'll get into the discussion.
My name is Johannes Hummer. I'm in Freedom Holding Corp, running the telecom and tech business. We are aiming to work with telecom operators across the globe in whatever shape and form needed, and become the fintech arm in this.
Great to have you on the panel. Mr. Eamon, please.
And I am Eamon, and I have more than 13 years experience for fintech domain. I'm responsible for the digital transformation of Huawei Middle East and Central Africa region. And for Huawei, I just want to have a brief, very short introduction for our business for fintech. Actually, we have, for this scenario, okay, we have more than 1,200 developers and globally. And we have more than 8 research R&D centers globally. So here, and we have this business already more than 10 years. Okay, thank you.
Edgar, please introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here. I'm the CEO of Eurisko, so we're a digital innovation company based in the region. And we do a lot of fintech. We've built like around 8 major digital banks in the region, mainly in Saudi Arabia and UAE, Egypt, and Kuwait.
Nice. Finally, say that.
Great to be here. Thank you so much. I'm the general manager, Do Pay, which is the financial services fintech subsidiary of Do. We are providing services to blue-collar and low-income individuals working in the UAE.
Okay, so Mr. Hummer, how do you envision the integration of the different streams within the fintech space? We want to see an enablement for customers to buy goods and services, to trade, and to enable SMEs to get into that domain as well. So how do you see the short to medium term evolution of fintech in the region?
Great question, Dr. Amaf. Let me start a little bit more. You said at the beginning in your intro that the telecoms are very long already in that space. And we had last year a very good panel. And by the way, thanks, Tony, because the last panel between 2 days and drinks is quite appealing. We think that the biggest challenge back like 20 years ago was that telecoms such as Vodafone, where I was the last 14.5 years, and Orange, Telefonica, they were backed on knees by MasterCard and Visa to work in fintech. And the telecoms didn't do it. Why? Because one, they didn't understand it. Two, they didn't bother. And three, it's a very different business. Telecom is a heavy capex-driven business with high margins. The transaction business, the credit card business, the banking business is very high transaction volumes, very low margin. So from the sheer definition of these two industries, they are not very compatible. They're both very heavily regulated, and you need very different skill sets. So back in the days, the big operator said, why would I become a fintech? Why would I take MasterCard, which are diluting my margins, and so on and so forth? If these people, or at least the companies, could wind back now 25 years, this would have looked very different. And I see Sedat here already nodding a lot, so I think you agree. So this is number one. Number two, and that's where we are now, the fintechs are starting to enter into the telecom space. So look at Revolut in Europe. They started a few years back, they have now 65 million customers. And they are serving 65 million customers with less than 11,000 people, of which 2,000 are actually not serving the customers, but in markets to open up new markets. So the amount of people you need to serve 65 million digital banking customers, and that's not only banking, by the way, what they are doing, is very limited, which is a threat to the banking industry. If you look at the banks and how many people they are having, they dream of serving 65 million with 9,000. Yeah? It's more like a 0 or 2 zeros behind. So that's something that will become a challenge within the banking industry. And in the telecom industry, now in the last, let's say, 10 years, our friends in Etisalat and in many others in this region, they talked about fintech and they talked about a wallet. But wallet is competing with Apple Pay and Google Pay. Sorry, that train has sailed. So now they are trying to come up with smart sweet spots. Du is doing this brilliantly, basically driving financial inclusion in the UAE. And this is something where some operators have, in the last 15 years, done an amazing job, or 20. If you think at what Vodacom did in Africa, in some countries with M-Pesa, that's a success story. But again, very low margin, and it worked because it was separated. So what I believe is that the future of this for telecom operators is acknowledging that it's a separate business, run it as a separate business, run it as a separate P&L. You need different skill sets. And then to go more into the details of your question, to build super apps, and that's a buzzword, but if you look at the banking apps of the Revoluts and the like today, they're not only doing banking, they're offering telecom services, and they're offering travel sims, and they're offering Tinder subscriptions, and they're offering WeWork and what's not. So you have one shop go already. And that's what also Freedom is doing very, very successfully in Kazakhstan. We have here Dr. Kirit Kalembetov, I will refer to him a few times today, who is from Kazakhstan, the previous Deputy Prime Minister and Governor of Central Bank. He knows a lot about those topics. And Freedom has built a super app where you can buy from an eSIM all the way to a ticket, e-ticket, flight ticket, concert ticket, cinema, you can do your groceries, you can get an insurance, and so on and so forth. And it's all in one. If you buy a flight ticket, you can take the insurance and you get the eSIM of the country which you will visit. So that's a very, very good future. What you're struggling with, and what we all are, is regulation, because it's separate regulations, they don't talk to each other. And we have here a previous regulator, His Excellency Dr. Hamed, who was 10 years the regulator in Oman. He will confirm that a regulator is always there to enable businesses, but you need to have a plan. And many telecom operators and banks don't have this plan. If you go to the regulator and say, I want to do this and this and this, and these are my partners, then the regulator will foster it. But you need to have a plan. And the last point to raise here is one thing that telecoms are not good at: we don't like to partner. We like to run it our own. We don't want to do a 50-50 joint venture or whatever form. We want, telecoms as a nature want to buy stuff. And a lot of times telecoms bought stuff, also in the fintech space, and it went down the drain because you have different skill sets. So I think one thing that we need to learn more and more is partnering across these ecosystems. You can't own end to end, but you need to partner and bring it all together under one umbrella, one app, seamless, and so on and so forth.
Thank you very much for these insights. I think it's warranted that we move to the M&O side now to take these leading points. So there were basically, you entered into a new stream for financial services. Of course, there were barriers, but you had assets that you could have capitalized on to basically lower those barriers. Can you give us an idea of how DoPay basically got into that space and what kind of services it's offering and how it's affecting financial inclusion in the customer base?
Sure. 3 years ago, we looked into the financial services. And the financial services, obviously, it's extremely different business than the telco. First of all, the regulation is different. And secondly, UAE is already overbanked in terms of GDP per capita and the number of banks. So before deciding on the financial services, fintech, obviously we needed to decide on which segment, niche, we should play a role and we become successful. So we looked into various segments, the premium segment, the medium income segment, and low end. So what we realized, especially low income segment, the blue colors, their entire banking is still physical and they're not giving bank account in the UAE. That gives us an opportunity because we could, first of all, provide financial services to this segment. We could bring them into digital financial services era. And we could also move into a market who is not dominated by existing banks. The reason the existing banks were not serving this segment, it's not because they cannot. They decided not to do that because managing risk of blue collar segment, knowing this customer base is difficult for them. So as do, we today have almost 6 million customers from this segment. We know them very well, in and out. We understand their usage. We have a distribution channel that we know them where they live, the labor camp. So we understand this segment very well. And on top of that, we decided to build a financial services product catering to this segment. I think with this, we launched our product 21 months ago. And today we have 650,000 registered users and over 100,000 active base. And then they are doing international remittance, any country in the world. Because if you look at their banking journey, 80% of the money they earn, they send back home. So that's why we said we need to be in remittance. Secondly, This segment, they're not provided with any cards, like debit cards. We said, okay, we'll give you a debit card this segment. That's how we started with the two products. And now also we're going to add the new product. But the essence of the story, we position ourselves, financial services, I'm not going to call super app, but financial services app for this segment, catering their needs. And with this vision, we reached the 1.5 billion transaction volume in 20 months. And we are adding new products as we go. Hopefully next year, we'll go into lending and investment products too. And the goal is that we want to serve this segment and using the dues brand recognition, because telcos is powerful. If you look at the remittance market in the UAE, the fintech, there are so many players. To be honest, it's extremely crowded. But then when these people, they send their money, they're looking for a trusted brand. So because of that, the telco, the brand, it's a great plus. And secondly, you need to reach out this segment, distribution. Because if you don't have a distribution, you're only a digital player, these people, they will not know you. We spend every weekend at the labor camps with this segment, so that means we have a strong distribution network with them. So because of those two powerful assets, we are now leveraging that. And one finally, I think that was a great feedback. We didn't treat it financial services as a department within the telco. Separate team, separate P&L. From the day one, we treat it as a standalone business. And this is also in line with the central. I think this is also one of the successes we have it, because I've seen the versions of telco fintechs. They treated the fintech as another department with the telco people. And they wanted it to do with the telco people. It didn't pay off. So I think all these experiences we accumulated, we launch our product accordingly. And so far, the feedbacks and result has been successful.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let me tap into Huawei. You work with almost all the MNOs in the region, and you've seen many mobile money services being launched. But I think now we are at a tipping point where we want to go into banking as a service, right? And MNOs have accumulated a wide array of assets, since inception. Most notably their OSS, BSS capabilities. What advice would you give MNOs to actually evolve and move into the banking as a services era, provided that we have the enabling regulations in countries?
Actually, thank you for this question. And I have had a view for this question, and I think for telcos, it's the biggest advantage for that to build digital life platforms. It's because that three reasons, and it is for wide reach, and second is for trust foundations, and third one is for identity systems. I think this is very important. And currently traditional OSS and BSS systems is already running and carrying like billing and roaming and messaging system is very huge. And this is a reliability capability which is the fintech services needs. It matches its needs. Okay, this is first. And secondly, I think it's for the open platform. Now telcos, if you want to move into the banking as a services, you no need to just starting from zero. It's just to move currently strengths and capability into it. The platform, it is the first point, as I mentioned. And secondly is for connectings. And in the before, and telcos is connecting the networks and the users. And but in the bank and services, and I think it is connecting to the merchants and the banks and also the remitting companies. It is ecosystems. Okay, so this part, I think, for this connecting with telcos can build a mini app platform and also an API system, API gateway to let, say, other ecosystem, local ecosystem to join to build this local market. And third one, I think, is for the smart data. I strongly agreed that Mr. Sadat has mentioned, and for telcos have a very mature and a multiple scenario data, because including like the user's location and the payment record, and also some devices type, okay, and many informations. But banks don't have that, okay? So that telcos can use this data to build an like, let's say, create as a services platform and modeling, okay? Once the building, this modeling becoming mature, and we can also open this to the local cooperator and the local market. And I think that's all. It's 3 points, I think, is the point.
Thank you very much. And I think it's time now to talk about the most announced or talked about two phrases, artificial intelligence in this domain. Edgar, do you advise your clients on integration of AI into their existing services? And I think it's important to realize that, you know, with the telcos and MNOs, the BSS, OS, we always identify some sort of fragmentation. What is your role in incorporating or introducing AI to telcos to help them in aspects like credit scoring, for example, which is not their core specialization because they're new to the banking space, and help them to accelerate the journey towards becoming a banking as a service provider? So we want you to sort of tell us where AI is most helpful in this regard.
All right, thank you for the question. Actually, if you look at the type of data that telcos provide, they're not quite useful for credit scoring. So this type of data, they mean nothing for credit scoring. But the good news for telcos is that the data that they have is very useful in fintech for fraud detection, for example. So if you look at the fraud detection in the cybersecurity, a lot of frauds could be prevented if we have information or data about locations of POS devices, location of users. So if you take those cases and you tackle them, you would end up with a need of an API layer and a connectivity layer that should be between banks or fintechs and telecom operators. And I can give you a very small example around that. A friend of mine a couple of weeks ago was under a fraud thing in a taxi. And anyways, I'm not going to go into the details. However, a big transaction in a taxi cab of 2,500 euro was allowed by the bank. And what the taxi driver did is he brought with him, he did a POS swap, which is common in fraudulent activities. So imagine that the bank, which is at the end of the day, the card issuer, will check an API and make sure that this POS is like tens of miles away from the location of the actual merchant who issued that POS, then such transactions should not be allowed. I'm pretty sure that after a month, they will give him back his money. But imagine how much you're going to spend in terms of resources, people, emails back and forth to get this money back. So to go back to your question, a layer of could be centralized, could be interconnectivity between banks and fintechs and telecom operators. Of course, it should be secure and regulated with exposed API that could score certain transactions and provide data to give a score to a certain transaction will be very helpful. And this is where AI would come in place to do this analysis in the background and to give this like scoring to that transaction, whether it should happen or it shouldn't happen. And this is the way we see a lot of telco data helpful for fintech operations.
Great. Mr. Summers, let's talk about inclusion, financial inclusion, right? We've seen in many countries, including some in the region here, we talked about lower financial exclusion rates, but in reality, many people are semi-banked, right? Or if not unbanked. But everybody has a mobile phone. So how do we actually foresee the future of telecoms becoming, the neobanks? Because you talked about Revolut, if we reverse that and think about MNOs as becoming neobanks, holding the customer value, the monetary value within the ecosystem of the MNO. What regulatory hurdles do you think they should be mindful of and proactively sort of approaching to make sure that they get into that space, provide banking as a services, and offer a suite of services to their customers? So you have your SIM card, you bank, you insure, you trade, and so forth. How do you see that happening, at least in this region?
There were 6 questions in one, and we have only 19 minutes left, so I will try to pick one or two. So first of all, I disagree a little bit with what you said, that the telco data are not useful for certain scorings in the financial. I think that they do. I think we have several countries in Africa where you actually make micro-lending based mainly on the KPIs that you have in the data of telcos. So it works, and it works well, but not in the use cases that you were referring to. But you can actually model with the data. And I see 2 people nodding, so I'm happy. But to your point of financial inclusion, I think it's more, and I think what Du is doing is absolutely brilliant. People are not necessarily unbanked because they want to be unbanked, but because it's complicated, they don't have access, they don't have the time, etc., etc.
Trust?
Just the phone. So you can, per definition, use the phone. The second thing is, banking is super complicated. So even in the UAE now you have like some digital banks where the onboarding journey is very, very comfortable. The benefit of operators is they actually have the data already. So even if you have a SIM card, at one point you need to run through the KYC. So you can actually, and that's the question to the regulators, to be able to do the KYC journeys and the KYC information once and then enable the second. That's very powerful. And then you, as operator, you know a little bit about top-up history, when they are topping up, when they're not topping up. If you then data mine this, use some AI, you can build very fast a preliminary credit score to enable micro-lending if you want that. Mm-hmm. So coming back to your questions, I think one, digital and financial inclusion, which is also 2 of the 5 main pillars of the targets of World Bank and United Nations, are absolutely crucial, and the telecom operator can become an enabler for that. That also means, which in Africa is an issue, that many of the rural areas have no coverage. So there needs to be investment on that side. So good for the Nokias, Ericssons and Huawei's, because you actually can't make digital and financial inclusion without a network. That doesn't apply in the UAE. In the UAE, we have one of the best, if not the best network on earth. Then working with the regulators to allow that if you're running through the KYC of telecom prepaid SIM card, that you have enough information that you can do certain preliminary banking services and remittance, which you're jumping on, and having extremely well thought customer journeys. Because a lot of these people are not very good in writing and reading. A lot of these people also have challenges with complicated processes, complicated apps, and can't go through that. And I think that's a sweet spot that telecom operators should focus on. Third, and last, I think, again, partnering. You have, as you rightly said, a lot of banks in the UAE already, very good banks. You have new banks coming to the market. Revolut is launching ours. So the market will be shaken up quite tremendously. And I think telcos, either partnering with banks or doing something, using the KYC journeys, being easy, having good customer journeys, that's a sweet spot. And using the data that they have about the customer will allow them to do stuff that a bank to a new customer can't.
Good. So I think we can get some learnings from Huawei having, being an international solution provider. We've seen some countries talking about digital lifestyle operators. So is that a reality, and do you see that's happening at least in this region? And what is required for a telco to evolve into a digital lifestyle service provider? So if you have learnings from other countries, that would be great for the audience as well.
Yeah, sure. I think to a telco move towards to the digital life platform, there is a point that is fintech as a service. My point is very simple: is fintech service is turns the financial services into building blocks. This kind of blocks and can be added into any of the scenario, any of services, and some microservices. Okay, for example, like some very scenario-based use case, and when you buy some shopping very small items, okay, when you check out, the system will jump out to you some best options in different options for the payment. And when you transfer money, and the system will suggest you some different options in different ways, different payments, different rates. Okay, but this kind of services, okay, required the platform have some, and the fintech platform have some capability that, for example, as is cloud native and micro services. Okay, we can also break the core capability into independent services that to support this kind of microservices to build up. And in these fintech services, I give you two scenario-based examples. As I mentioned, the first is for the purchasing. Okay, purchasing. And in the purchasing scenario, and we know the customer's payment records, and also we know the customer's bill payment, and also we know this information that we can give a suggestion that, for example, 3 payments with zero fee, and 6 payments with low rate is for customers to selection. Just one click, seconds down. Okay, this is first case. And secondly, I think for money transfer is very high frequency use case here, especially GCC countries, especially in UAE. And people use to transfer back to their homeland every monthly. Okay, but a traditional way is people is going to the exchange shop and to compare with different supplier and different price and make decision. But I think in the future, digital life let's say, digital life platform will offer customer with an AI, will give him select the best path, the best on the customers where the money goes, or the money target country and the amount and the payment history and this kind of information. Give some suggestion and for customers to choose. I think for these two cases, what telco have advantage is telcos have the data, have the channels, have the users, and the bank have the license and the risk control capability. So this is a cooperation model. And in the future, I think telcos to build this capability is not only on one operator and one bank corporate model. It will be coming interface and the distribution center. Okay, behind this distribution center, it will be multiple supplier, multiple banks, and corporate together. It is ecosystem. That's what I want to say.
Great advice, Iman. Sedat, you've talked about blue collars. You talked about unbanked. You talked about low income. But we want to know what is DoPay doing for SMEs? Trying to get finance, trying to get off the ground with their small businesses, because they often have challenges as well as individual customers, right? So, what is the product design for SMEs?
That's a great question. If you look at financial services in the UAE, there are two segments. They were not happy. Number one, unbanked. The second, SMEs and entrepreneurs. Whenever you speak to them, especially on the banking side, they have a variety of financial services issues. Number one, it takes too long for them to get an IBAN. Secondly, it's very difficult for them to make international payments. So because of that, definitely there's a pain to be addressed in the market. But then serving SMEs and entrepreneurs are not easy, especially maybe AI is going to help. Onboarding side of SMEs and entrepreneurs are extremely different than B2C, the customers, because it requires you need to go through a due diligence phase. That means there's a reason why SMEs are not getting IBAN immediately, because of the regulation. So serving SMEs from a financial services perspective, regulation-wise, risk-wise, it's not easy. If we get smart about using the tech, AI, if we automate the onboarding process, today, not even in UAE, globally, this process is not automated. You involve back office, manual checks, the onboarding, and it requires a lot of people back office to manage that. Because of this, it makes it difficult to do a digital instant services to SMEs. We've seen some digital banks appearing, very small back offices, and then their claim is to digital instant. But then in the background, you have to have a scale-up operation to manage this. Why I explain this? Serving SMEs, financial services, you have to be careful and selective. From our perspective, we already have a product. When SMEs, they pay their blue collars employees, we have a digital end-to-end products, and then they can pay it in the digital wallet. If they're blue collar employees, we give them IBAN, immediately the entire process from start to end digital. The good side for this SMEs, today their employees, they have to pay, send money home physically. They need to go somewhere. So without digital end-to-end, they don't have to go there. Their money comes into their digital wallet. Immediately they can send money to their home. They can use debit card. So I think from this perspective, we are already serving SMEs from payroll solution perspective. Obviously, SMEs has lending and other product needs, but I think first we need to innovate how we do the onboarding side of the things, and We already launched, we already have initiatives with the local governments. As soon as they get their commercial license, we could give them IBAN. But this is a process. So as a telco fintech subsidiary, we want to serve this segment. There's a potential, but we have to be selective and careful because of the regulation side of the things.
Okay, so they will be financially included as well.
Yeah, indeed, they definitely need to be served, and we'll see more players in this segment.
Right. Edgar, you work with a lot of many clients on digital transformation end to end, right? And telcos probably one of your biggest clients as well. But telcos need to also make some sort of a transformation to get into the financial services space. So there are investments that needs to be made. There change management that needs to be initiated, and people to be hired, partnerships to be formed. From your perspective, how do you safeguard and protect all of that? Because all of that can be at risk if they hit a regulatory hurdle or a regulatory fine, especially with central banks and so forth. So what are the proactive safeguards every telco should take when they are getting into the financial sector or digital financial services?
All right. So I'm going to answer this question whether the client, whether it's a telco or a fintech, it's the same thing. So I agree with Johannes that telcos should treat their baby fintechs as like a different business, different mindset, different setup. The regulatory aspect of things has become a bit easy now with all what's going on in the digital transformation in the I may say in UAE. I would take an example: UAE, in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. So this part has become like it's still a burden. However, it's becoming easier and easier. But I would say that any fintech that is going to hit the market needs to invest into two things. One, who is the segment? Who are you targeting with whatever digital product you're releasing in the market? Who's your target audience? What the feature that you want to come up with? Take, for example, in UAE, Wio. It's a great success story. I guess maybe it's the only super app in UAE. So you can invest, you can do IPO, you can manage your family, all your family. You can instantly create an account to your kids or to your teenager. So the business has to come first. And what the gentleman said is that SME is really a great place to start with. If you take a big market share in the SME and corporate space, this means you take the biggest market share of the commercial space, because at the end of the day, those people work in companies. The second thing that they need to invest in is a very robust technology that is API first driven, orchestration, microservices, a strong security governance into that, and then they will be able to scale up.
Excellent. I think we have a couple of minutes left. We'll go for final remarks, please.
I think, in summary, if you look at what Huawei says, very clear, be focused, use the existing systems, use the journeys. If I look at what Du is doing, find your niche, look exactly in where can you, for example, bank the unbanked. Be super easy, be clear with your processes, work with the regulators to use proper KYC stories and use the data that you have. I think the other thing is partner. I think telcos and fintechs need to learn how to work together, not necessarily only by buying each other or competing, because we will see competition, not necessarily in the UAE, because the regulator has a very strong view, and that's good. But if you look at Europe and others, they're eating into each other's markets. And if you look at the margins now from from the fintechs. It's funny because it's actually reverse. While the telco margins outside the UAE and some GCC countries are actually going down, the fintech margins are going up. I think Revolut, for example, in Germany, they are entering now the market with an all-you-can-eat plan at 12.50 euro. I mean, that's tough. And in the premium subscriptions of the fintechs, they could actually, if they want, make the telephony for free. And that's not fun. So I think telcos will need to partner, will need to think out of the box, and what Du is doing is a super cool story about it, and try to tap into it. And I think, as we all widely agree, run it as a separate business, including a separate P&L, because otherwise the CFO will have a strong view.
Thank you. Eman, final advice for telcos.
I think 2 points, and for very shortly, okay. And for telcos, just to keep opening for this platform to build a sandbox and to build an open API platform gateway to let the ecosystem local suppliers can self-operation and managing the product and the services and go live quickly. This is first. And secondly, I think to focusing on the high frequency and the necessary applications. And because in this market, we all see there is many carting system, food delivery, and is already applications already. There is already many applications. Why fintech wins? Why telco fintech wins? We need focusing on some different applications. Okay, this is my point.
Edgar, if you can just give us your last insights about the future of fintech in the new era of AI. How are we envisioning that?
We're heading towards the one interface, just chat. So what we're doing today with Visa, we're partners with Visa International. I mean, the requests that we're having from banks and fintechs all over the region are enormous. Everybody wants to incorporate AI into everything they do. I would see 2027 max, the app of a bank will just be a chat, one interface, where you just talk to an agent, send him a voice, tell him just transfer to Tony 1,000 dirham now.
Not enough.
I did not put another zero. Transfer to Tony 1,000 dirham. Yeah, transfer to Tony this amount, and this is why I'm transferring it, and it will just authenticate it and just do it for you. So this is where the world is heading big time. And to see where the world is heading, just look at your kids. Like most of us have kids. Just see how they operate every day. See how are they using technology, and then you can understand where the world is going in the next couple of years.
Say that any teasers for what DoPay will come up with in 2026? You don't have to disclose anything confidential, but why should I look forward to having a DoPay on my mobile next year?
The next year, hopefully, we'll go live with our lending, micro-lending product and the investment product. Hopefully, we'll be able to do more for our blue-collar segment, and we become their go-to financial services app in their daily transactions.
And SMEs as well.
And
SMEs.
SMEs, we will give them acquiring solutions.
Okay. Thank you very much for this team panel. Please give them a round of applause for these insights.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. We'll just have a picture on the stage, please, center stage. Thank you so much, panelists. As 2 dynamic days draw to a close, there's no better way to capture the insights shared than by looking at the power behind it all. Hyperscalers. Powered by hyperscalers and driven by code, the future telco cloud stack will deliver seamless, scalable, and fully automated networks that redefine connectivity. The following panelists will tell us how. Dennis Bernier, CEO, Verticloud; Mohammed Hamouda, Regional Telco Head, NEC GCC; Ijaz Sial, AWS Technologist, 6G and AIML; Manish Kansal, Middle East and Africa Head of Core Networks, Nokia; and our moderator for the panel will be Hernan Munoz, Technical Practice Head, Salience Consulting. As they make their way on stage, gentlemen, if your mics are working, you may already start talking. We'll give them a round of applause.
All right, so very honored to be moderating this panel with this distinguished panelists. And I will start reading this opening statement to just set the scene for our discussion about the telco cloud stack of today and the future. So for the last few years, the industry has often framed the telco hyperscaler relationship as a power struggle. But in reality, the digital infrastructure of nations will not be built by hyperscalers alone, and it cannot be sustained by telcos in isolation. Hyperscalers bring unmatched global scale, AI platforms, and software velocity. Telcos bring regulated national infrastructure and physical proximity to customers through access networks and, most critically, edge and core adjacent nodes. That ownership of proximity at the edge is not just a technical asset. It's the foundation of a true win-win partnership model where hyperscalers deliver intelligence and platforms and telcos deliver execution, trust, and sovereignty. Today's discussion is not about winners and losers. It's about how telcos and hyperscalers co-design, cooperate, and co-monetize the unconventional telco cloud stack of today in 2025 and the future. So basically, just want to say a few words on where we are right now with the telco cloud stack. If we move back like 10, 15 years, when the telco functions started being virtualized and cloudified, I think most of us coincided on a vision of, okay, we have like the IT cloud already. Now we have this new element in the network of telco cloud. Let's try to unify this and have a unified platform for virtualization, cloudification, simplified, more efficient, and we move on. But the reality, 10, 15 years later, brought us to a different situation. Most of the telco operators ended up with not only the IT cloud and the telco cloud, but multi-cloud for telco internally. So several internal cloud stacks. And not only this, but also the hyperscalers came to the picture and started offering also the cloud services to the final customers. So we ended up in a mixture of internal and external cloud, a multi-cloud environment, and this is where we are. So I would like the panelists to start giving us one sentence on, in your opinion, how does a successful telco hyperscaler partnership look like currently and in the near future? So I will start with Denise, please.
I think I will skip this one. Because I think my colleagues are much
Okay,
better on
very
the,
good.
on the core
So
part as we
Mohammed.
discussed. Huh?
Actually, what you said is right about that era of discussion about telco and IT cloud and convergence, then going into multi-cloud, and now hyperscalers came to the picture. So the discussion about multi-cloud now is whatever telco providing from their sovereign cloud and whatever from hyperscalers. And maybe last 6 or 7 years, there was narrative about who will dominate this competition. So by time we find out they came into a final win-win situation. So now they start to go into synergy of some partnership, generating some use cases out of this fact that we can see. So everyone excel in something. So telcos excel into proximity, more data privacy, more labeled as sovereign. Hyperscalers coming from agility, velocity, more ready to consume AI capability. So what we see is these complementing each other's now, and they came into win-win situation. There is some use cases actually that had been seen to going live. I will explain further maybe during the panel.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. Yes.
Yeah, I think I generally agree. I think there have been some learnings from the past 5-10 years. And I think we all need to be honest to ourselves that there exists a notion in the telecom service providers and also cloud providers that one is to take the business of the other. And I think we need to evolve and grow out of this compete situation into working together situation. I think we all have been on the 5G journey, and a lot of cloud native promises, a lot of monetization conversations did not play out. So I think there are learnings to be made. So one of the day job that I have is actually envisioning about 6G, and I know we are still making money or talking about making money out of 5G. But I think there are learnings, and there is a forcing function for us, which is AI now. And what it helps us is traditionally telecom cycles have been 8 to 10 years when we talk about different generations. But with AI, we have an opportunity to innovate and monetize and deliver value across 2 to 3 years cycle. So how do we reconcile the best of the telecom networks, the technologies that have been strengthened and built over time, and how the innovations that are available with respect to AI, and how do we bring both of these together? How do we solve data security and sovereignty challenges that are out there, versus conceding to the idea that these problems have been there? So if I summarize it, for me, there are newer technologies to solve older problems. We must evolve our thought process towards the solutioning approach of how do we work together. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. So Manish, your view?
You started the discussion by saying who wins, is there a power struggle here and so on. I would frame it in a very different way. I would frame it in a manner, this is not a power struggle. This is one more option. Some years ago, we were talking about unification of technology. Is there a one single cloud stack that serves different purposes? Well, answer is no. There are multiple options. And therefore, we talk about multi-cloud. And therefore, we talk about being cloud agnostic. And the cooperation with the hyperscalers, the ability to leverage the hyperscale infrastructure is one more option on top of everything else that we have been doing traditionally since many years. So it's not a power struggle, it's one more option to say where the right kind of workloads can sit where.
Fantastic, yeah. So under this context, let's talk for a bit about the first topic, which is the multi-cloud as a shared control platform. So multi-cloud is no longer simply about resiliency. So telcos are not doing multi-cloud because they want to have a backup. So it's becoming the technical foundation of a balanced partnership where neither the telco nor the hyperscaler dominate the control panel. So I will start with you, Manish, with this question. How are vendors like Nokia architecting network cloud platforms to remain cloud agnostic while still integrating deeply with hyperscalers?
So I'll give an analogy. It's like building first the car platform and then building the car on top of it. So have the right flexible car platform first. So you can build multiple types of cars on the same platform. that's the kind of approach that we take, which means that for us as Nokia, or in general any telco application provider, we build our applications to be cloud native, to be able to be orchestrated by the Kubernetes basic layer, to be able to use the open source observability framework, and so on and so forth. So basically being cloud native in the truest sense of the word, not just in the matter of being one deployment, rather across the whole life cycle, using the cloud native principles to design the software, to deploy the software, adopt the DevOps principles in our own house. So that's the basics, that's the first step. Then coming to, now that's, once you have the platform of the car, then you need a lot of work to build the car as well. And that's where the cooperation with hyperscalers and other industry telco platforms comes into the picture. Now, the approach that we have taken, for example, is that we don't build our own telco cloud. We don't have a Nokia telco cloud, for example. We work with the industry stacks, we work with customer-specific stacks, and we work with hyperscaler stacks. And that now cooperation starts from having the right kind of architecture offices jointly, having the right kind of test labs jointly, and a lot of focus is paid on security hardening and on performance testing. When we first started this cooperation with AWS, for example, there was a lot of work to be done to do the network acceleration, into adopt the telco cloud applications into the infrastructure of hyperscalers. There are some regulatory concerns also that come into the picture, which we had to solve when we first started this. And now after tens of production environments which are live, carrying live traffic in this kind of joint cooperation, I would say it's one more engineering project rather than a innovation journey.
Fantastic, thank you. So this question to Eyas: how do hyperscalers design multi-cloud strategies that empower telcos rather than simply absorbing them into a single dominant platform?
Yeah, interesting question. I'll piggyback to what Manish said, that it's not about a dominant platform or locking workload or telcos into a cloud environment. So from an AWS standpoint, we are all about offering the right choices, and I should expand the right technology choices and options for our customers and their workloads. So when we look at telcos, they have a diverse set of workloads across IT, network, and other segments. We were just talking about a FinOps business for telcos, for that matter. So how do we bring in the right resources, services, management, security, all of those aspects for them, understanding that telecom will work with multiple cloud environments, including their own on-premises systems? So AWS's approach has been to provide management and control in a unified way across multiple cloud environments, offer data and analytics services, offer telemetry and observability services, and offer them a platform and a framework that harnesses AI across the whole multi-cloud framework, whether it's other hyperscalers, whether it's on-premises, all put together. So our focus is, if I sum it up, is provide the option to innovate wherever the workload is. And the workload can be on-premises, edge, including even on devices or across other hyperscalers. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, Mohammed, how critical is openness and interoperability in preventing partnerships from turning into long-term dependencies?
Okay. So in this relationship between hyperscalers and telcos, so actually interoperability and openness is crucial, because if this is not there, so this relationship will be more dependency more than an opportunity to unlock new opportunities of new capability for both of them. And also this will crack the multi-cloud concept itself. So multi-cloud is giving the telcos the freedom of choice, okay, which make him less dependent on a specific cloud platform. That's why this aspect is very important in the relation between both of them. So this openness and interoperability, so you have to make your different clouds, more into API-driven, more into orchestrated intent-driven also. We have to make sure that the way you engineer and you architect your CNF part and cloud part in general, more into standardization, more into API intent to make sure that this kind of relationship is bringing you opportunity rather than give you lockness in long-term relationship. And this is good for everyone in the industry to make sure the competition is still there and everyone is competing in a fair way, like what he's actually bringing as a value to each party. So this is my view.
It's fantastic to see your views and to confirm that the multi-cloud becomes a governance fabric of collaboration. It's a playground for cooperation rather than a simple technical architecture or even an obstacle. So it's fascinating. So let's move to the second topic that is about cloud-native functions and joint cloud-native engineering. So cloud-native networks are no longer being delivered in isolation. So they are increasingly being co-engineered by telcos, hyperscalers, and vendors all together. So I'll focus this question to Mohammed again. So how much real co-innovation are you seeing today in CNF design between vendors, telcos, and cloud platforms or hyperscalers?
This real co-innovation between both parties, we can admit that, as present is increasing by time. So maybe 4 or 5 years ago was a theory. Now we can see some real cases happening on that one. And this is actually one of our advantage and capabilities that NEC is bringing to how to make this leverage between the telco and the hyperscaler and how to help in providing new use cases and make this co-innovation happen between both parties to unlock new capabilities. So what we do is we make sure when we build any sovereign cloud, make sure it is open natively in each and every layer, from hardware perspective, from CNF perspective, from all the APIs, orchestration to be open, and make sure that this natively open to be integrated with hyperscalers as well. So I can share one of the use cases that we done with one of our customers, for example, is we have make utilization of this capability to give a new capability for telco through dependency on hyperscalers. So it's about, all telcos have their own, for example, 5G core, okay, what they have, and all of this is sovereign by default. So, but all of, agility of sovereign clouds is not the best like hyperscalers. You cannot have like on-demand capacity to manage your customer traffic needs and things like that. So what we did is we have made this integration between traditional sovereign clouds, which is we have built as a cloud native by nature, as well as make spillover use cases and resilience use cases using this 5G core on top of hyperscaler. So we have brought NEC 5G core application, and we have put this on top of AWS, and we deeply integrate this to the sovereign cloud of this customer. So the customer now have, for example, he knows that he have 5 or 6 planned spikes in traffic every year, so he can plan to spill over this traffic instead of having reserved capacity, and he's losing money on this reserved capacity. So he's pay per use and make use of this one. Same time, in case of any outage or failure, so it gives another layer of resiliency that he can immediately move his traffic to the hyperscaler, and also he can pay per use. So the business case is very successful. This is one of the use cases that really show the co-innovation value between both parties.
Great, fantastic. So, yes, how do hyperscalers reconcile cloud-native efficiency with telco-grade determinism and the 5 nines availability?
Yeah, I think interesting convergence of 5 nines and telecom grade and cloud native all together in that one question. Yeah. If we if we unpack a telecom network and when we talk about 5 nines, what is a telecom network? A collection of networking assets, NIC cards, servers, racks, sites, regions, and awesome amount of networking and throughput that does fail over if something goes wrong. And there's been history of solidifying architectures and putting transport networks and backbones that work. But what that resulted in is a lot of over-provisioning, a lot of additional cost, a lot of operational complexities. And if you pick the cloud side on the other side, that was built software native. So when we think about resilience and HA and cloud native, Amazon CTO once famously said, all the things fail every time. Everything fails all the time. So when you're designing something for high availability, for resilience, for 5 nines, for telecom grade, we keep that design principle in our mind. So we have to build something secure, we have to build something highly available, and we have to ensure that we are either telco grade or better. And we host financial services, we host NASDAQ, and we host mission critical applications like telecom happens to be a national critical infrastructure for emergency services and other services. So our approach to it has been software-centric, event-driven, and providing an infrastructure and auto-scaling mechanisms that can still equate to delivering the 5 nines outcome that telecom networks are built for. And if I go a step deeper, basically if you look at cloud offers services as in building blocks. So our approach has been, when we talk about storage, when we talk about compute, when we talk about networking, bring the high availability and resilience and durability as part of the individual building block design. And from there onwards, when we bring all of them together to build a network or host any network workloads for that matter, we are able to deliver the right outcome. So in summary, software-driven, software and event-driven with auto-scaling functions.
Great. So Manish, where do you see the biggest architectural friction today between the cloud-native design and the legacy telco cores?
So I'll go back to what was being discussed just now about the 5 nines. You know, when we talk about two different philosophies, one philosophy is we scale just in time. Another philosophy being provision enough from the beginning. Yeah. So thankfully that friction has been solved today. The friction that remains to be solved, and there is still a lot of work to be done there, is that typically a telco operations is a combination of multiple legacy technologies and cloud native technologies. So when we talk about any kind of observability framework, when any kind of automation framework, you end up having a very solid framework for the vertical stack that is on the combination of hyperscalers and telco. But then when we look horizontally across the whole technology landscape of a typical CSP, there's a lot of careful attention to be paid in making sure that we are not inadvertently breaking something when we're fixing something here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there is a lot of integration, engineering overhead still to make sure that we're able to carry the legacy technology together with the latest technology.
Yeah, great. It's good to see that with the right approach, with a cooperative approach, actually the CNFs become a shared innovation layer rather than a vendor-only product domain.
Right, right.
Yeah. So moving into the next topic, which is the network as code, as a joint monetization engine. When networks become programmable through APIs, the infrastructure actually transforms into a joint digital marketplace. So, Eyas, let me ask this topic with you. So, in network as a code models, where does long-term value really sit? With the cloud platforms or with those who control the customer proximity at the edge?
Yeah, I think long-term value needs to be a mix of both and probably more. Not only the edge, and I trust the edge here means telecom data center and proximity to the customers and
Correct.
hyperscalers being more in the regions. The way AI and intelligence and the long-term value is evolving, it's actually going further deeper towards the devices also. So for me, it would be a collection of all of this put together. And I would humbly disagree with the word of control. I think we need to harness the long-term value. We need to create the platforms together, the right data and AI foundation to actually be able to deliver any meaningful value. And we must think beyond just connectivity. We need to talk about AI fabric that builds on top of connectivity, and the application and the services that actually get built on top of the AI fabric. And that continuum then transcends from the device to the edge, to the telecom data centers, to the cloud, and to wherever the application sits. Thank you.
Great. So Manish, in your view, are the telecom vendors structurally ready for an IPA-first revenue model, or are they most still trapped in the hardware economics?
I'll take the easier part of the discussion first. Definitely no lock-in with the hardware. Definitely not. That legacy mindset is not there. There are still some minor applications within the telco domain where layer 1 networking comes to the picture, so access and transport, where is a space for system on chip and custom design hardware. But for the large parts of telco applications, specifically in the areas of OSS, BSS, security, core, there is absolutely no reason for not choosing the COTS hardware, not choosing the multi-cloud environment, not choosing the standard off-the-shelf telco cloud platforms, and not choosing the hyperscaler advantage that we have. Coming to the API, I'll split that into two parts. APIs in terms of making the applications work on a telco stack, that part is solved. That's done. But being able to use that, leverage those APIs for the purpose of 5G modernization, there is a lot of effort still to be done. It's not enough to expose those APIs because of the regulations that we are bound by, because of the data privacy and sovereignty issues that we are bound by. There's a lot of hand-holding required to bring the larger ecosystem together with us. Now those efforts can be in the form of publishing the SDKs, that can be in the form of creating pilot use cases, working together, and we already see some examples of that across the world. Not so much here in this market yet, but a lot of traction is visible in many of the 5G SA customers that we have.
Great. So Mohammed, in the same line of thought, in your view in NEC, are traditional vendors ready for a world where revenue shifts from hardware and licenses to programmable service ecosystems?
I believe it's not an option anymore. So vendors who want to stay and be relevant, so they have to avoid this lockness. From NEC side, we did this for all of our platforms. And within our overall system integration capabilities, we believe in openness from day one. So we have designed each and every of our solution to be more and open, more into software-oriented, open architecture, API-based, following standardization. So in summary, any vendor that he will insist on being in his own lockness, in very few years it will be totally irrelevant. In reality, we see many vendors and OEMs now start to be opened, even in very critical and profitable products in their portfolio. Many people have started to join community ecosystems, shared labs, integration projects, going into autonomous standardizations like team forum and stuff. As part from our ecosystem as NEC, most of our ecosystem partners are actually went open, and we are working together into shared development teams, interoperability projects, open automation and orchestration, and co-innovate together. So it's not an option.
Great. So yeah, we can see that I think we coincide that under the right level of cooperation, the network as a code or network as a service enables commonetization. And I think we agree that we don't want to see the same dynamic of the OTT and the telcos where the market value was destroyed, but rather increase the market value working together, and the main benefit will be translated to the final customer. So let's move into the next topic. So we cannot avoid mentioning the two magic words of AI. So let's talk about OSS and BSS and AI operations, AI ops, as a joint operating model. So the true partnership exists not only in architecture, but in the day-to-day operations. And OSS BSS is where commercial models, automation, and customer experience finally converge in this multi-cloud environment. So now this is your playground, Denise. So I will start with you with the first couple of questions. So the first one being, how are cloud-native OSS BSS platforms fundamentally changing how telcos operate and transform now and beyond 2025, 2026?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me as part of the panel. I feel very honored with my colleagues from very estimated companies. I'm CEO of VertiCloud. VertiCloud, I'm in the ecosystem, but I'm a bit smaller. I'm the Salesforce advisory partner trailblazer in the GCC region, focusing on industry cloud transformation, mainly on telco, and also industry agent implementation, industry-specific agent implementation. And I think I feel a bit special here, like Isham from Salesforce, my ex-colleagues yesterday, because I'm kind of the only one talking about application and software, while we are talking a lot about cloud and multi-cloud, sovereign cloud and all that, but that's part of the ecosystem. And yesterday, Motaz and Roy talk about all the capabilities of AWS, without which we could not do these industry clouds projects with Salesforce. And thanks to AWS Cloud being available now in the UAE and very soon in Saudi, telcos now can really start transformation with a cloud-based industry solution. And the good news is that with this type of solution, they don't have to do big bangs, big projects. They can do things progressively, meaning less risky and also bringing value quicker. Like, if I'm focusing mainly on the B2B and the customer experience, they can start by using those solutions to, for example, for the sales to deploy lead and opportunity management, then implement catalog and pricing, moving to the code, the contracting, and potentially up to the order management. And they can do that in a phased approach. And for example, in the ICT world, with complex B2B services, usually a lot of telcos so far didn't have the right stacks to do it. And they had the stack to sell connectivity, but not cloud services, professional services, IoT, cybersecurity, to name a few. And this can be deployed quite quickly. At VertiCloud, we just deployed a satellite operator in the past few months, just in a few months, actually, for the lead to contract cycle. And so that would be my main thing. I can add something about agents, maybe, or
do you think that can the telco safely deploy AI agents to transform faster, partnering with hyperscalers nowadays?
No, exactly. And I think today it's evolving. It's even driven by agents somehow. And again, relying on the AWS technology plus the Agentforce technology, for example, from Salesforce, we can definitely, and even without changing the CRM first, we can do that in parallel to run AI-driven, agent-driven, and telco agent-driven, transformation and bringing value quite quickly. There are really dozens of examples of agents which are sales focus, marketing focus, client services focus, which are really bringing value, from day one. Of course, for that, you need to have the right data available and clean and all that. You need to have the right computing power, but again, that you get it from AWS. If I take some examples, sales assistant agent, I'm taking those examples on purpose because we talked about a lot of network agent example in the past 2 days, but preparing calls, preparing meetings for salespeople, gathering all the information, getting all the information from a 360 point of view before a client meeting or before a client call, preparing the summary of the meeting, preparing a quote based on all the information available for the review of the sales guy, preparing a pricing optimization recommendation, all that type of things. I really have dozens of examples, and of course in customer care as well, identifying in advance issues, analyzing, if there's been some issues with the network, so when you meet the client, you have all the status about all the defects. Do you know if the customer is up to date in terms of payments? All that. So all these agents can help you really prepare that. And of course, they can make suggestions, but you can also automate later some of those actions if the sales team, the customer services team become comfortable. Because one of the key things is adoption. It's good to develop all these agents and all that, but they need to be adopted by the sales people, by the customer care people, by the marketing people. And the more and more it's adopted, it means we can move to automate, not only recommend, making recommendations. So I think that's an important point. So I really believe that the future is in telco industry agents, basically running those transformations based on industry clouds.
Thank you, Denise. So Mohammed, in your view, are today's OSS BSS platforms truly capable of real-time API-driven cloud operations at a career grade?
I can say mostly yes, but the point is that utilize, deploy it or not. So in NEC and Netcracker, being an NEC company, we do lots of OSS and BSS digital transformation projects. And this is a very, very big word, when we're talking about. So answering this as this big scope in general, it's not easy to have one answer fit all. So if you look into what relevance to the cloud itself, specifically from the OSS part and cloud orchestration in general, we can say that yes, platforms are there, but the point is telcos has to develop the scale, governance, and operating model on how to make this happen. Also, the support from the other layers that could be more, programmable and giving the right APIs and to have the right agility to unlock this capability. And this, of course, will go up to the BSS layer. So in summary, the OSS and BSS layer is not more into as a back office engine more than it's the real brain of business. So the OSS is giving the right capability from network side and from IT side, and the BSS is giving this from business side. So capability is there, but the point is how to really unlock this and how telcos are ready to consume this capability.
Thank you, Mohammed. And yes. Do you think that AI-driven operations is becoming a shared intelligence layer between telcos and hyperscalers, and who ultimately controls that intelligence?
Yeah, I'll try to answer this a little differently. I think we are honored with all the trust that other panelists have on AWS. So where our focus has been actually building capabilities that allow the outcomes that our esteemed panelists here are driving for our joint customers. So when we talk about AI agents or agentic systems, how do we feel confident that the decisions an agent would make sense? What's the probability of a fault there? How do we have visibility into that decision making? How do we benchmark language models? How do we manage the life cycle management of the models? All of that. So basically building our muscle and technology around the enablement of the assets and technologies which realize the use cases that are important for our customers. So for us, it's not about controlling or having a platform that locks use cases and customers in, but enabling our customers to get to the outcomes that they're trying to drive.
Great. So we can see how the future of the network operating centers becomes a co-managed digital operations environment. So I will skip to the closing question. So we had a section about regulatory, but we already had a panel about regulation. And for the sake of time, I'll move to this dynamic. I'll do a kind of a rapid fire to each one of you. So I would like a yes, no answer plus a short sentence just to justify about the statement that I will read to each one of you. So I'll start with Denise. So Denise, this is the statement, so yes, no, and a short sentence. So the best telco BSS OSS cloud stacks are now ready to deploy in the GCC to enable AI transformation.
Yes, completely. And you can start first by implementing a few telco-specific agents, as I was mentioning before finalizing a larger cloud-based transformation based on industry cloud. And this is basically where we are here for to help at VertiCloud.
Thank you. So, Eyas, this one for you. The edge will become the primary zone of joint value creation.
I would say no. I think it would be a continuum, and we must partner across all elements, not just edge.
Great. So this one for Mohammed. Sovereign cloud will increase hyperscaler presence, not reduce it.
It depends on how the hyperscaler will react. So sovereign cloud is a need because of regulations and data privacy. So according to their adaptation, they can have more presence in local and regional peace. And this is what we see had happened here in this region. And based on the good reaction from hyperscaler, their presence and their business is growing in the region.
And finally, this one for you, Manish. The best telco cloud stacks will always remain hybrid.
Cautiously, yes. I'll use an adjective on top of hybrid, engineered hybrid. There's a lot of work required to make the hybrid telco cloud work with the right kind of resilience, with the right kind of 5 nines, with the right kind of security, with the right kind of sovereignty principles to be taken into account. So engineered hybrid.
Right. So what today makes very clear is that the future telco cloud stack will not be built by hyperscalers alone, and it will not be defended by telcos in isolation. It will be shaped through co-architecture, co-investment, and shared governance, with hyperscalers providing global AI and platform scale, and telcos providing customer proximity, sovereign infrastructure, and trusted execution at the edge. The most successful digital economies will not be those that choose between telcos and hyperscalers, but those that design a balanced, trusted, and economically sustainable partnership between both. I would like to thank the panelists for your great contribution today, and thank you to the audience for bearing with us until now before the dinner. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.